Alright.
It's started now. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Election Countdown. I am joined by Logan Robin, who is competing against Nick Clegg in Sheffield Hallam, and I'm joined by Charlie Nicholls, who describes himself as a young Peter Hitchens.
Or Douglas Murray, take either one.
I'll start with you, Logan. Shock gains for the Greens, especially considering that everyone thought the Labour Party moving to the left would be a threat to the Green Party, but you've actually done okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is something we've actually been seeing ever since Jeremy Corbyn rushed on the scene. Really, there's just the green votes remained relatively stable because people. I mean, I think this is something people don't really realise is that there's actually quite huge differences between Jeremy Corbyn and the Green Party. Like, although we sort of all generally occupy a space on the left somewhere, we're still very, very unique. For instance, we've always had huge problems with Labour sort of restrictions on civil liberties that you can see during during the Blair era, for instance, and stuff which has been sort of continued under Jeremy Corbyn. I mean, I think fundamentally people don't really know what Labour stands for. Because we've had Michael Foot in the past, who's sort of an early Jeremy Corbyn. We had the Blair eras, and now we have Corbyn again. So it's like if you cast a vote for Labour now, you don't really know what that vote's going to 5 years down the road. Whereas the Greens have always had a very, very stable manifesto.
But Charles, aren't the Tories loving all this division?
Well, my natural question to that is if the Green Party do claim to be an independent party of the Labour Party, then why are they, in a sense, in many constituencies in the general election, saying they're not going to stand so that they don't split the votes?
That is a good point, because the Green Party...
I mean, I don't believe that's in your constituency, but I believe this is in many.
The Green Party have essentially been done over by Labour, because Labour haven't returned the favour, especially in Brighton.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's worth noting we haven't just stood down for Labour candidates. We've also stood down for Lib Dem candidates, and Lib Dem candidates have stood down for us. For instance, in Brighton Pavilion, they recently, which is where Caroline Lucas's seat is, they've stood down for us. So it's really a sort of progressive alliance of the entire centre left, saying that we really sort of oppose the things that the Tories the Tories are doing to this country, for instance. On Brexit and on austerity. So I think it's about working together against the electoral system and against the government.
But I mean, Charles, you must be loving this, because right now the Conservatives are projected to get 38%. If you look at the Margaret Thatcher era, 38% would almost certainly be a loss for the Conservatives, whereas now, because the left is so divided between Labour, the Liberal Democrats, the Green Party, Plaid in Wales and the SNP in Scotland, the Conservatives are benefiting greatly from all this division.
Yes, they are, because of course UKIP have completely been annihilated as a party, which everyone expected they would be. It's probably the only proper conclusion you could have from the local elections is that UKIP are almost annulled as a party now.
But it says nothing about the success of the Conservative Party.
Well, it says that they're pretty much the only side. If you take, I don't want to use the horrible word Brexit, but that's the last time I'll use it, leaving the European Union, if they're the only side that takes that, apart from UKIP, then in a sense, yes, they will manage to accumulate an awful lot of votes simply on that matter. On the sense of party infighting, it does show, it lacks, if you consider Green Party to be an independent party, what question would you put therefore to, I mean, in terms of politics and economics, they're very little in common with the Lib Dems, you must say. I mean, the Lib Dems generally say they're a centrist party. If you want to redefine them as a left party, that's up to yourselves. But if it's the division.
But there's no doubt that conservatism right now isn't particularly popular compared to what it was historically.
Well, I mean, the Conservative Party isn't conservative in that sense. It's a party of. I mean, you can divide it and define it in your own terms, but it's the party that's claimed leaving the European Union as its own, ably helped by Labour, Lib Dems and Greens.
Well, media spin because Theresa May was once in and is now.
Well, yes, but she claims not to be now. I mean,
wanting to be a hard-nosed Brexiteer.
Yes, she does now. Well, she says she wants to be through the will of the people. I mean, whether that means anything or not, I don't know to you. But the point being, really, is that the Conservative Party will, of course, benefits as it has done the locals from this division. Is this division in any way soluble or not? It seems that they are three different parties attempting to be quite similar, but they're not in any sense similar.
I mean, Logan, I'd like to bring you in this. The Green Party have tried to separate themselves from Labour and the Liberal Democrats, and they've always been the party that said, okay, we're going to stick to this one issue of green issues. But doesn't that leave you in a position where you're more of a pressure group than a party?
Well, okay. I'm glad you brought that up because in terms of being a single issue, because it ties into something you were just saying. In terms of like the Conservative Party being the only party of Brexit. I mean, for a start, I think that's not true because if you look at Labour and you look at in the constituency of Sheffield Central, which is our third major constituency in the country that we're really targeting, our former leader Natalie Bennett is standing here. And Sheffield Central is a constituency that voted Remain, approximately 66%. Despite that, you had Paul Blomfield voting with the Labour whip to trigger Article 50 and to give Theresa May a blank check.
That's because Labour...
He's failed in putting it over, though, hasn't he? I mean, a lot of people think he's extremely opportunist in that. I don't think most followers of Paul Bloomfield really think he's an ardent anti-European Union candidate. I think it comes across quite well as that it's...
well, his own wife is a Labour MEP.
But then there are lots of Eurosceptic MEPs as well. I mean Daniel Hannan on the Conservative side was an MEP and was perhaps one of the leaders of the Brexit campaign. But I think like obviously Paul Blomfield did campaign for Remain, but it's very wishy-washy when suddenly you can completely change your opinion on the matter just like that. And I think if he really was as pro-European as he would like to portray himself, then he wouldn't have given the blank check to trigger Brexit with no amendments passed. There are all sorts of amendments which he could have said this needs to be in the Brexit bill in order for us.
I mean, they attempted several amendments. The trouble is, none of them got through.
None of them got through, and then when none of them got through, they still voted for the bill. They could have said, look, our support for the bill overall is conditional on the amendments. It's conditional on saying we have a final vote on the Brexit deal at the end of the process. That didn't get through. It could have been conditional, saying, "Look, you need to secure the rights of all EU citizens in the UK." They didn't do that. Yes, they said, "Oh, we should do that," but they weren't willing to put their money. They weren't willing to put their necks on the line.
Could they really have said that though? Was that really a realist position that they really could have forcibly put their power behind that, or was it that it simply was not possible in political matters?
I mean, the thing, I think for them they were in a catch-22 because their political position is just untenable. The Labour Party's position is
I'm really curious on the Green Party's separation from the Liberal Democrats on this issue, because we've heard from the Liberal Democrats that they want a second referendum, they want a referendum on the referendum. What about the Green Party?
Well, so our position, this was announced a couple of days ago in London by Caroline Lucas and Molly Scott Cato. We also want what's called a ratification referendum, which and what this would be is it would be an opportunity for the country once the Brexit deal is done with the European sides to say, look, we need to put this back to the country and see what's actually in it and see if what Theresa May is saying in the general election, which so far is nothing, and what was said during the referendum campaign. Look, are we going to get 350 million for the NHS a week? And if that's not the case, and when we can see what's on the table, like would we rather have that or would we rather Remain?
But isn't this just as good as having a general election now? Because right now people must surely be suffering from political exhaustion. I mean, everyone's seen the old woman standing outside the house saying, "Not another one." Mm-hmm. Isn't it better to have MPs scrutinise on our behalf on issues which, let's be honest, even during the Brexit campaign, a lot of people simply didn't understand the implications of the referendum in itself.
Well, look, I don't support a ratification referendum lightly. I do agree there is a sense of fatigue going on, but I think that there were a lot of lies said in the previous referendum. I don't think that this general election is a particularly good way of confirming that process, because again there are so many other issues on the table, like austerity being a very, very big one. You can't reduce this election to a single issue, and you definitely cannot reduce it. You can't get results based on the very, very poor electoral system.
I'd like to actually come on to austerity. Actually, just as a brief note, Brighton Council, you knew this was coming, by the way. Brighton Council, since the Green Party have really caught real power, we've had bin men strikes, they've had to implement cuts, and Caroline Nicholls during the 2015 election, to be honest, tried to distance herself from that council. What about you? I mean, is it a case of, well, councils, they're given a budget, they have to implement austerity anyway, or is it a case of betrayal, which a lot of people might interpret it as being?
Well, I mean, I think for a start, if you actually look at what the leader of Brighton Council said and what Caroline Lucas said, none of them were speaking of betrayal. They just spoke of a disagreement of exactly how things should be done, which is fair enough. This happens in every single party because there is a variety of opinions.
But you're an anti-austerity party, aren't you?
Well, yeah, we're anti-austerity on a nationwide level, but there's a lot of things that you could do in order to stop austerity at nationwide level. But the fundamental fact of the matter is that a majority of local councils' money comes from the central government. Like you pay rates to the local council, but that's not where most of their money comes from. Most of it comes from income tax, which goes to Westminster and then back. And what you see over the years is that the way the Conservatives are implementing austerity is yes, some of it is to frontline services in Whitehall that they do themselves, but most of it is that they're putting it on to the councils themselves, so that people who oppose austerity have to implement it, and then to make them look bad.
So these council elections that Green Party gained seats in, they're absolutely pointless.
They're not pointless. It's because there are better and worse ways.
But all they're really doing is implementing austerity. Unless you go full Derek Hatton like he did during the 80s, all you're going to do is elect people who are going to act to carry out Tory austerity anyway.
Well, I mean, I think for a start you've got to look at where the austerity is coming. Okay, because I think what you see the Conservatives wanting to do, what they do at a national level, what they would want, and what they're trying to do at a local level when you elect them, is they cut the things which are most important for the most vulnerable. You see, like there are countless instances of disabled people having their welfare removed and then committing suicide or just starving to death. I read a story the other day of someone's electricity was turned off and then their insulin ran out and they died. And this is not what should be happening. Whereas if you elect green councillors, which is what people, which is one of the we saw that happen at the elections the other day. But again, I saw at least 5.
So there's better places for the axe to fall.
Yeah, there's better places for the axe to fall.
I mean, you're not really suggesting that the local councils have no agency at all, are you?
No, I mean that's precisely what I just said.
No, but you're suggesting that in the sense that it's almost. Without central government power, they are massively retracting in terms of their power. They cannot in terms. I mean, it's a nice way of suggesting that the Green Party don't have a level of one of the things that's always put against the Green Party, they don't have a level of realism, or they're something of a pressure group.
Well, let's turn on to you, Charles. In terms of realism, I mean, at the end of the day, £1.39 billion was paid towards bailing out the banks, and this is the result of it. We have green councillors making decisions they really don't want to make. Isn't the fundamental problem the fact that we need to remodel our economy?
A remodel economy in what sense? That's quite a big question.
Being less dependent upon the City of London, which came cap in hand to central government asking for trillions of pounds.
Yes, but this is that's reversing a trend that's gone on really since probably since the 70s with Jim Slater and James Goldsmith. The fact that the only true growth that comes from this nation is from the City of London, as it is in most higher nations. And
the Conservative Party are making efforts to change that, because the production economy has actually continued to decline. Manufacturing is still down.
Yes, it will. Yes, and I mean where that can be reindustrialised. The fact is, you'd have to. There's no candidate I can see standing in this election that actually suggests that there will be a reindustrialisation.
Well, will the Labour Party be doing that by trying to invest in the economy?
No, I mean. No, it's a token suggestion. They do like to suggest that reinvesting in the economy will create production. basis for this country. I can't see it doing that at all. I don't think the politics of foot or bend did that at all in the 80s.
I mean, we can argue about whether or not they can or can't. The fact is they're trying to put money into the production economy, but are the Green Party going to do the same thing?
I mean, I'd say one of the main things about this is that I think we put far too much emphasis on economic growth, on GDP growth, because we've been in growth for...
So is that a statement that capitalism and green policies cannot go hand in hand?
I mean, I really don't like throwing around the word capitalism because it can mean anything to anyone, and it's basically useless these days. But I think the focus into this emphasis on constantly
But
saying
it's the major economic system. I mean,
and it's well, no, yeah, but what would you say capitalism means?
Well, a system of distribution based upon private enterprise.
I mean, people would still be able to own things. I'm okay with that. But I also think there does need to be a much greater degree of sharing in public ownership of institutions, because that's quite often the best way to deliver prosperity. But what exactly prosperity is, I think that needs to be looked at more closely, because quite often people associate austerity with having more stuff. And now stuff is great, but it's not the only thing.
Well, no, austerity is having less stuff.
Yeah, but the thing is, people. One of the things that conservatives argue is that you need to have austerity, and that there's this whole rather spurious argument that the nation is like the nation maxed out its credit card, which is just like that's just not how an economy works.
Well, we've currently got 1,000 to 1 debt. No, sorry, 1,000% debt to GDP ratio if you take in all sectors of the economy.
And one thing I find fascinating about that figure is the fact that we've had a conservative-led government for the past 7 years, and it just keeps getting worse.
Well, that's true. The debt's doubled.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't attempt to defend that. I'm not going
As
to
I said, this is more Peter Hitchens than your typical conservative.
Precisely. I mean, I don't intend to.
But you'd still vote conservative.
Well, yes, but I hope we do get onto things like foreign policy later, which is the main reasons I would. But in that sense, I mean, I would really be interested to see what the Green Party's real attempt in this election is, because a lot of this talk is attempting for a majority government, which is, I think, even in the realms of the instability now, I think we would suggest is unlikely. What is the actual? Is it to do what Caroline Lucas done in other constituencies, or is it simply to create a basis with maybe some co-op Labour MPs in the Parliament to create one would say maybe a hard left opposition or something like that?
Well, I really don't like this description of left and right, to be honest. Sometimes it's useful, but I don't think that's a particularly useful way of thinking about it. We're not really aiming to form a majority. It's kind of known that's not going to happen. I mean,
yes.
If anything, we don't think that the Labour Party's been doing a particularly good job of opposing the government and holding things together. We think that with a good backbone of MPs, we're currently targeting 5 constituencies across the country.
But they're taking on board a lot of your policies. I mean, you can hardly say they're not a good opposition if they're taking on board things like taking the minimum wage up to £10 an hour.
Oh no, I absolutely can. I mean, I commend them for taking on those policies. I also, will heavily criticise them for a variety of other things. I mean, you only mentioned Ken Livingstone and his anti-Semitism.
More bills have been blocked under this opposition than any government previous.
They've also not made got government to give any concessions. For instance, we had Caroline Lucas in Parliament not that long ago, putting forward a private member's bill, which was the NHS reinstatement bill, and Jeremy Corbyn whipped his MPs not to turn up. Whereas if his MPs had turned up, and they would have been able to force it through to go to the next stage and the next stage. But that didn't happen because he whipped them not to turn up. And as a result, we've seen what has Jeremy Corbyn actually achieved in these past 2 years? Nothing.
Well, you must be opposed to Jeremy Corbyn then. You must be opposed to any collusion between the Green Party and the Labour Party then. If Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party does act as much in opposition as any other party to Green Party initiatives, you must oppose them then, surely.
I don't know. What I oppose is, well, for a start, I do oppose a large degree of their policies. But the main problem I have is they're just not a very good vehicle for delivering them, because you have people like Paul Blomfield who essentially nabbed Jeremy Corbyn in the back, and then Jeremy Corbyn saying, well, like if the party.
Well, this is part of the whole progress momentum divide, isn't it? And you can't trust progress MPs, people who used to serve and promote the Blair government, to bring through green policies.
I mean, yeah, it's just too divided to be, and like at this stage in time, the beliefs held by various Labour MPs are just incoherent, which is one of the many reasons why I'm a member of the Green Party, or I'm saying the Green Party, because you always know what you stand for when you get the Green Party.
I don't know. They do have quite a lot of internal factions, mainly between, I would say, socialist and anarchist parts of the Green Party. I mean, the Green Party is quite unique in the sense that it's both left and one could say libertarian at the same time. It has been described that way by members at the time.
I mean, I can't. No members no Green members who describe themselves as libertarian come to mind. And it's worth noting that even you always do get some extremes in every party. For instance, I believe 5% of UKIP supporters voted to remain, which I think is quite funny. So there's probably a few Green members who aren't really in line with the main thinking, but that happens in every party. The overwhelming majority of the party is within one view. We are pro-EU, anti-austerity, and we're the only party that takes the environment seriously.
Do you not think that there is an anarchist part of the anarchist or libertarian part of the Green Party at all?
I mean, perhaps somewhere, but I'm no expert.
Let's move beyond this. I want to talk one last time on Brexit, because this is being called Brexit election after all.
Mm-hmm.
From a Conservative and a Green Party point of view, aren't both of your aims unrealistic? Because on the one hand, you have an EU which is unwilling to negotiate, that some believe hold all the cards. I mean, the EU commissioners were saying at one point that this election is entirely pointless. It doesn't matter how strong Theresa May is in Parliament, it's whoever's Prime Minister is going to have to negotiate with EU officials anyway. And for the Green Party, I mean, isn't it a case of you're backing the EU, but the Commission in itself is still unelected and still is heavily under the influence of lobbyists?
Well, not just the Commission. I mean, I think you'd be very, very hard pressed to just say the Commission was unelected. I mean, you've got to talk about the Council of Ministers, 90% of which the laws passed by the Council of Ministers, the fact is they're done by Coreper, which is a civil service nobody knows anything about. I mean, you go into many other different things about the failures of the EU.
Just to sort of add to that very quickly, I think that the EU is not a perfect institution. It's not this paragon of global government.
Well, it could be argued it's a neoliberal institution.
Some would argue that.
With certainty.
I would query that, but just on the democratic point, like to deal with one issue at a time. I think look, I think it could be better, but I think the way that the EU is governed in terms of democracy is much better than the way Westminster is governed. I think the UK's first past the post system is atrocious. Yet I don't argue that Sheffield Hallam should.
But we can vote for our MPs. We can't vote for the Commission.
We can't vote for the Prime Minister though. And we can't vote, just like we can't vote for the head of the European Commission.
Because we vote for the party that Prime Minister will get.
And it's the same thing in the European Parliament, because what we can do is we can vote for an MEP, and then it is impossible to get a new Commission President or a new Commission without the consent of the Parliament. All appointments of EU level government is done between the elected heads of the national governments. That's like, for instance, Theresa May, or not for much longer, and the directly elected European Parliament. That is quite democratic. That's how it's done in many other systems.
It isn't, is it? I mean, the amount of discrepancy between certain countries about the amount of influence they have. I mean, one could talk about Malta having an incredible amount more influence than we do. In certain countries, it's not in any way proportional. And I don't. If you say we can't vote for the Prime Minister, then I don't see why the head of state should have any democratic power in your sensibility.
Of these Brexit negotiations, again, I'll come back to it. Isn't it equally unrealistic to get all that Theresa May is promising? Because we're seeing
what is she promising? Do you have an example in mind?
Well, just that Britain can trade with the EU, but can't allow any EU citizens to come into the country. I mean, ultimately, if they want to sever ties with the UK, they've already said they want to do that first before they talk about a trade agreement. Are we going to have a situation where there's a period, however brief, where trade is just completely cut off? Or not cut off?
I don't think so. Well, there'll
interrupted.
always be trade. I mean, if you have to fall back on the World Trade Organization rules, then you have to do that. My central argument for leaving the European Union, which I don't think the Conservative Party took up at all, and well, UKIP took up in different weird senses, is a political one. It is the point of democracy and independence. That's my central argument, really, for it. Economics, it depends. I mean, I think I go with Asquith's famous saying that self-governance is better than good governance. That applies to economics too. However, politics always come first, and it comes from seeing the EU what it is.
But
it is a
in
political
an increasingly
institution.
neoliberal world, how are we going to be able to govern ourselves?
Well, what do you mean? There's just a total world
if
government?
I take on board, I hate to say golden straitjacket theory, but
you're talking economically again, though, aren't you?
I mean, just for people that aren't political, the theory that you can't really govern your own country because you have to have as many free trade policies as possible in order for there to be growth. Those free trade policies were ceded to the European Union, so there'd be an ethical way for them to be discussed. Now we're back to anarchy, and we have a race to the bottom in terms of workers' rights.
Well, I
tariffs.
wouldn't totally agree with Freeman's thesis in terms of the anarchy outside of certain trade. I don't think being outside the EU trade, outside EU tariffs necessitates a level of anarchy. I think you could define it yourself. The main issue for me, though, is of course in
So we're
terms
not
of
going to
parliamentary
be
democracy.
some kind of free trade, low regulation outpost. Just off
Not
the coast of
necessarily.
Europe.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't be opposed to that if we could see what picture that would be.
So complete libertarianism.
I'm not completely libertarianism, but I'd like to see what when they point to that is. But the point isn't that. The point is you have a choice of anything you can do. Really, you would not have to. It does not necessitate. It's not a binary choice. This.
I mean, isn't this the kind of thing that the Green Party and other left parties and other people trying to remain within the EU are worried about? That if we allow private corporations to do whatever they want in our country, say for example green policies, they could be dumping in the river, they could be charging what they want for bus fares, wages could be going down.
Are they not national laws rather than EU laws? They've been adopted by the EU.
Well, this is what I mean by race to the bottom. But I like to bring.
There's some of those are EU things, and some of them are. I mean, minimum wage is a national thing, and so is PFI. But then there's also certain what's it called, state aid rules, which mean that you can't nationalise certain industries. However, I think that the golden straitjacket theory I actually think it's quite a good proposition for the EU because it actually, as far as I'm concerned, it only applies to smaller countries. If you can band together and get enough countries together, it means you can overturn the rules of the
So a global international.
Something like that.
A free market one rather than a socialist one.
No. I mean, because the thing is, I think you can change the EU from the inside. If you remember, because like you've got to think, how did these policies get put in place in the first instance? They were done by the various governments and the elected European Parliament, and that means you can go up there and you can change it. It's changed in the past. It can change in the future.
So this mirrors what the leader of the European Liberals said. The people aren't against a united Europe; they are against this united Europe.
I mean, I think
And
that's fair.
this is
the EU's beyond reform, as we all know.
But this is
I wouldn't
simply the argument.
that.
Can the EU be reformed, or is it unreformable?
It is unreformable.
Isn't this the base of the argument as to why we left the EU?
It can't be reformed because it is, by its very definition, a political movement rather than an economic one. If it was an economic one, it could be reformed really to anything you wanted, but it is not that. In its very earliest formation, very earliest treaties in the 50s, it has always been a political movement.
I mean,
Just before you, but I mean, I think the argument that the EU is unchangeable is just fundamentally false, precisely because of what you mentioned. It is just fundamentally different to what it was like 60 years ago.
Just on this last point, just for the last couple of minutes, because we are running out of time, isn't this point that the European Union has an army, a flag, it has its own foreign policy, and we've seen it's already interfering in Ukraine, where there's currently a civil war.
Not to forget Bosnia.
But they're trying to, claw other countries into its net.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I query slightly to what extent it has an army. The battle groups are a bit nebulous on that one. But I would say
We've seen Eurocraft fighters.
I'll come back to that one on a different point. But the main argument that I want to make is that the reason the EU does this, the reason it integrates, is because you can get more done as 28 nations working together, 500 million people working together, than one nation of 60 million, and that's the UK, which is one of the largest. You need to work together. You cannot have 28 different policies for climate change. You cannot have, and you can't have serious economic policies that are sort of balkanized across a continent. You need to work together to get anything done.
I think here we hit on the central disagreements. I don't believe that 28 states that are extremely different. I mean, if we call it an empire for one point, an empire always breaks up because there are different sections within it that have nothing to do with each other. The fact is, the places such as Lithuania, Poland have very, very different ideas of national identity than we do, and different ideas of economics. The point is, you will never get a consensus between such states. You can only do it, as the EU has done, of course, by not particularly asking what the systems particularly wish for. You will never. The point is that I would say that I find the idea of a united European Union undesirable, but that's fall by the wayside because it is certainly impossible. These things cannot be, and has been attempted for the last 60 years. They cannot be taken together successfully. It cannot happen.
I mean,
this is no to Marx's analysis that we are a world chasing after our own image.
Oh no, we can be internationalists. We can be. We can help other countries, but the fact is, no, we are. Europe is not the same as an individual nation state. Nation state is the biggest political organism, something people can exist in.
Okay, Logan, I think you have one last point.
Do you have another question or?
No, that's our full half hour.
Well, I was going to say foreign policy, but if only we could talk about that another time.
Well, we've only got that half hour, sorry.
We only got a half hour? What's a shame.
Well,
I need to get home.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Charles. Of course, Logan, you'll be on the ballot paper in Sheffield Hallam. So anyone in England?
Or Randall, or Crooks.
Or Crooks. Okay, so that's it for Election Countdown. Thank you for today, and I have to get up again because I don't have a thing for the button, but thank you both, and goodbye.